Now, the first time that I ever watched Berserk, I was still a young guy attending university, and at that time, I remember waking up one Saturday morning with a bit of a hangover on one of my friend's couches, and this guy had this particular knack for pirating all kinds of media, especially anime, and he had this external hard drive with just every anime known to man, and he put on Berserk that morning, and it was the first time I watched it, and it really left an impression on me, because at that point I had only been watching all the mainstream stuff, you know, the Naruto, the Dragon Ball, the One Piece, all the very light-hearted stuff out there. So in comparison, Berserk is just incredibly depressing and horrific, because it's of course about the main character Guts, who is a mortal man trying to defy fate and all these godlike powerful creatures, but he just gets beaten down every time, and there's just every arc in that series is essentially just more depressing than the last. But that is what makes the soundtrack so beautiful. The soundtrack by Hirasama Susumu is excellent because it provides just those tiny moments of hope. And if you've ever watched Berserk, you know what I'm talking about. Especially Guts' theme is haunting. It has that haunting piano, the melancholic vocals that are like calling out, and it should be incredibly depressing, but the mix of it somehow comes together to create this slightly uplifting tone that carries you somewhere. So today I wanted to really celebrate that. Today I have to do a remix of Guts' theme, and if you want to just skip ahead and listen to the track, I've timestamped it at the end of the video. If you want to have a look at the behind the scenes stuff, how I remixed it, I'll see you in the next section.
Hey guys, so here we are. I've gone back inside, I've been working for a little bit, and this is my first draft of the remix for Guts' theme, the remix in drum and bass, that is. And I wanted to take you guys through some of the considerations that I made for this particular track, some of the things I thought were really cool, and just give you a little bit of a behind the scenes in terms of, what's in the track, really. It's not too complex, but there were some fun parts, so let's get right into it. The first thing I want to talk about are the samples that I used for this particular track. I, of course, sampled the song Gatsu, the theme of Guts. That is where most of the samples come from. But I also ended up sampling the song Behelit, or Behelit, however you pronounce it, for the different harp sections in that one. So I used a little bit of both. Now, if we start looking at Gatsu, the first track that I sampled, what I essentially did is I chopped it into different stems. I had an instruments stem, and I also had a vocals stem, and that is the majority of the samples for this song, actually. Now, there are four main parts I wanted to sample for this song in particular. There are two piano sections in the song, and there are also two vocal sections in the song. Let me just play them for you so you can hear what I mean. Let's start with the instrument. Here's the first piano part. That's that one. And then there's the later part as well. Starts around here. So we have those two piano parts that I sampled, and then there's also the vocals. We have the female part. And then we have the male part of the vocals. So essentially what I did is I chopped the song up into the stems, and then I sampled those 4 parts, the 2 piano parts and the 2 vocal parts, which ended up being quite useful for most of the song. Something you'll notice about the piano is I actually ended up layering the piano parts because it sounded really, really nice instead of having them just solo. So I can let me just loop this. I sped it up a bit too. But then try and have both. Sounds pretty cool, right? So what I did is I threw in a bit of panning. I panned one to the left and one to the right to create some separation. But actually, in most of the song, the piano samples are layered, which I thought was pretty cool. Something else is I found out that the vocal samples actually sound really, really cool when they are put in reverse. So let me just try and play that for you. I thought that was really cool. This is the male vocal in reverse. It has some kind of weird haunting feel to it. And then, you throw on some drums and you throw on a piano, and then suddenly you have a drum and bass. And I thought, the first time I just threw this together, I thought that sounded pretty cool. But let's try with the female vocal instead, maybe the reverse one. I really like this one. I mean, in my opinion, that goes so hard. I really, really like that. A lot of the song is just drums, piano sample, and vocal sample. That's basically it. Another part that I sampled from a different song was, of course, the Behelit song, because it has a harp section. So it was, let me just show you the sample here. I mean, you know that one, don't you? That one, super cool. What I did here is essentially I took 2 different parts of it. I took the intro part and then the later part where it has another layer of harp on top of it, a lighter one. But what I did is I slowed down the first part and sped up the second part, which gave me something like this. Here we just have the first part slowed down. Next has been time stretched, and then we have the second part. Let me just hit it. There we go. Pretty simple. And then finally, I also wanted to throw in a couple of voice lines, because I do that in all of my remixes. I don't know, it just adds story, and I feel like the reason I do these remixes is to try and tell the story of a video game or anime, but within the remix. So I sampled the narrator's voice line.
In this world, is the destiny of mankind controlled by some transcendental entity or law?
I'm sure you've heard, I mean, if you've watched the anime, you already know that voice sample. It gives a bit of mysticism to the track.
In this world, is the destiny of mankind controlled by some transcendental entity or law?
Just a bit of storytelling. And then, of course, one of the most important things about Berserk is whenever Guts is screaming about Griffith. So, just as a little transition thing, I added his screams as well. So there's this part where I have Griffith and Griffith! Just to add sort of a transition, and then at the end, you know, the scream at the end of it all, where Guts is betrayed by Griffith when he turns into Femto. I have no idea if that's a good transition or a horrible one, but I just really like that scream. The first time I watched the anime, it just stayed with me because it's just so real. Like it really goes right into your soul. And I put a delay on it, like it's a ping pong, ding, 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 goes back and forth. But that is more or less all the different elements of this song, drums, the piano samples that I've layered. The vocals, some of them have been put in reverse, some of them haven't, and a few vocal samples, and then the harp, and finally I just added a tiny bit of lower end guitar, because the song itself has basically no low end at all, so I wanted just something besides the drum kick, of course, so I just added a little bit. You can barely hear it, but just to give it more body. And that's basically the entire track. So there you have it. I'll put the finished track here at the end, and I'll make a visualizer so you can have something to look at while it plays out, other than just, you know, Fruity Loops. But yeah, that's it. If you have any ideas for me as to what video games or anime soundtracks I should remix in the future, just throw me a comment or like a message or something, and I'll take a look at it. But yeah, I hope you enjoy the track. Bye for now.
Is the destiny of mankind controlled by some transcendental entity or law? Is it like the hand of God hovering above? At least it is true that man has no control, even over his own will.